What's up guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be working on actually now adding real items. So I'm going to add a pistol for starters. You can see over here in the textures that I've imported the thumbnail for the Colt, and I'm going to be setting up actually the weapon details, so like fire rate, damage and stuff like that inside of the item details. And then hopefully, if we have time, I'm going to start doing the actual equipping and showing the mesh attached to the character, as an equipped weapon. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to go into content, I'm going to go into data, and by the way guys, I have imported also FPS Weapon Packs Volume 2 from the marketplace. So I'm going to be working with this weapon today, and that's the item, that's the texture that I also have. It's basically just a black and white texture of this weapon. So that's going to be the weapon that I'm going to be using. And yeah, okay, so let's get on trail. So let's go into data, let's go into blueprints, items, and we're going to need to create another structure. So I'm going to create a new user interface, not user interface, but blueprint structure, and let's go s_weapon details, and we're going to be adding this inside our item details. So remember, I think in another video I said I was going to add the weapon details, into a subclass like of the master item, but I'm not going to do that. It's going to be cleaner if I add the information inside the item details. So I'm going to add a new variable, and I'm going to call it weapon details. And I'm just going to move this up near the type. And by the way, I'm also going to change the type, the item type, into... Actually, I might leave it. That's going to be fine. Yeah, let's leave it like that. It's okay. I was going to add like the weapon types inside of the weapon details, but it's going to work the same way, so it's fine. So let's go into the weapon details. First of all, we're going to want to know the max size. Now let's start with the damage, and this is going to be a float. Now let's try a max size. So this is going to be the size of our magazine. This is going to be an integer because it's a full number. We also need to know the fire rate in case it's a full auto weapon, and this is going to be a float. We're also going to need to know the current ammo in mag. So this is going to be the actual ammo that we're going to have inside the magazine. This is going to be what we're going to be reducing every time we fire a shot. So you're going to subtract from the current ammo in mag, and this is going to be also an integer. And if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be it, because the overall ammo that we have is going to be driven from how many mags do we have inside our inventory. So we do not want to worry about that right now. Okay, so let's go into the item details and our weapon details. Let's make it of the type weapon details. Now if you go over into the default values, you can see over in the weapon details you can expand that, and you're going to have the information. And you just want to set this up if you actually have a weapon type over here. So that's going to be cool. Now I'm going to be changing over here. Let's go inside the sub items. I'm going to be changing the test item into Colt 1911, and let's change the details over here. So this is going to be the Colt 1911. 1911. Go. So the description is going to be I don't know. I'm going to leave a weapon, and I'm going to set the stats. So remember that the little overlay that we have, when we go over an item slot in our inventory, is going to display this description. So we need to set up the damage and stuff over here. So I'm going to just add a little bit of a description. So a World War II weapon that has high recoil but does a lot of damage. So it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going to add this a little, you know, we can change this later. That's what I'm trying to say. And I just type about recoil, and I remembered we need to add that variable also to the weapon details. So let's go over here, new variable, and recoil amount. So every time you fire a shot, you're going to add a certain recoil amount. So let's set this as a float, and that's going to be it. Okay. So if you compile and save, and we're also going to need to compile the master item, so it updates the information. So now you can see that you do have our weapon details over here. And I'm going to put the texture, so the Colt 1911 that I have imported is going to be a semi-auto weapon. Let's go into the weapon details, the damage. Because it does a lot of damage, I'm going to say it's 60. The max size, I don't remember the exact max size, you know, from reality, but I think it's something like 9 bullets or 8 or something like that. I'm going to put 8 bullets, doesn't matter. We can change this later on. The fire rate is, we're going to leave it at 0 because it's semi-auto. The current ammo in mag, I'm going to set it to the same as the mag size. And the recoil amount, I'm going to add 0.3. And you're not going to understand this value. Oh, this is the weight. I want it over here. I'm not going to understand this value over, yet, because we haven't done the code for the recoil. But after we do, you're going to understand how this value affects how much, you know, the recoil works. So I can't really explain this value just yet. We'll get there once we work on the code for the recoil. And the weight, I know this weapon is, you know, slight heavy, so I'm just gonna say 0.8 kilograms. Don't know if that's true or not. It's just, you know, a preview. Can stack? No, because it's a weapon. The item mesh. Okay, now we're going to have a problem, because the weapons that I imported, let's go over there, these are skeletal meshes and not static meshes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make a static mesh, and I'm just going to go into the FPS weapons, meshes, 1911, and I'm going to say Colt 1911. And I'm just going to add SCM for static mesh before. So if you want to have animations for your weapon as well, which I'm not going to do, you can set the variable in the weapon details or the item details to, instead of being a static mesh, you can make it a skeletal mesh. But because I'm not going to work with animations on the actual weapon itself, I'm going to make a static mesh out of the skeletal mesh. Now if you close up and you go there, you can see you have your static mesh over here, so that's going to be just fine. Leave this open because we're going to need to create a socket if we you know, if we get to the actual muzzle flash and stuff like that, which you probably won't in this video, but leave it open anyway. So I'm just going to search for the Colt, add that in. Now the animation is going to be the pistol, and this is another thing that I need to change, because we're going to have a standing pistol and a crouched pistol. We're going to need to have 2 slots for our animation blend space. Yeah, so let me go into the item details again. So let's go into data, blueprints, items, item details, and let's add that in. Let's add a new variable. Let's make it over here. It's going to be a blend space 1D as well, but we want to rename the first one to be standing underscore animation blend space, and now the crouched underscore animation BS, because you do need the to say the 2. Okay, why is this not changing? Okay, never mind, it's probably a bug. So let's go into our master item, because we need to compile that first. Compile and save. Let's close that. We can close this as well. And now let's extend this again. And now we can see that you have both of your variables over here. So you want the standing pistol, and over here the crouched pistol. And the class is going to be itself, which is already assigned, Colt 1911. So let's compile that and save. And now we can just see this on our inventory. So let me go over here, full screen, Oh yeah, I forgot to change something. We need to change the preview mesh. What the hell happened? Okay, we need to change the preview mesh over in the item mesh and change that for the Colt 1911. And over here is gonna be fine. You can rotate it how you want. Okay, I thought I have changed this. Let me just find the master item. I need to switch these around because I want these to be separate. Not like that. I want to attach. I do not want them to be together. I think I did that in the previous video. I don't know why it's doing it again. But I want to change this independent of one another. So this is going to be the location at 0. And I'm just going to rotate it so it looks like it's standing on the ground. So I'm going to add a 90 over here. And now the size of the box, I guess it's fine. Let's add them a little bit more. Compile and save. That's going to be it. So now you can see that it updates over here. Oh yeah, I forgot to that I need, let me go to see better to the right side, because you need to pull this a little bit up because half the weapon is going to be in the ground. So you need to put this a little bit above the ground, like that. So now it should look good. There you go. So now let's pick up a weapon. You can see it over here. And you can see you have one of these weapons, and you can see the details of it, and everything is working fine. So now we're going to get to the step where we're going to work on the code. Once I assign this, and now I want to close the inventory, so if I press 1, I want to equip it. So that's what I want to do. So let's go into the master human first, and you can see that we have our slots over here. And so let's create 2 new functions. So our custom underscore client underscore use slot, and then let's do another custom event, server underscore use slot. There you go. Actually, I think I'm going to need to say which slot it is. So, well, actually I don't. I just need to create a variable over here. Let's make this reliable. Let's create a variable. Let's call it the slot, and it's going to be of the type item details. There you go. Compile and save. And I forgot, I'm going to need a new variable over here. So let's Control W the slot 4 and call this the equipped weapon, like that. So we're going to be storing on the equipped weapon once we actually equip one of it. So when we do server use slot, actually I want to change this into equipped item and not slot, because we want to equip both items and weapons. Actually, do we? Because I think I said in another video that items we are going to click on the button assigned to it, and we're just going to consume the item. So we actually only want to equip the weapons. So let's change this back. I'm sorry. And yeah, if you're asking why I don't have the queue over here, it's because my queue stopped working in my computer for some reason. It's fine. I can just get the virtual keyboard and change it later on. I'm not going to do it right now. So let's go over here and call server use slot and connect this up. So I'm just going to make sure that I have space, because this code is going to be a little bit big, I think. So let's compile and save and go back into our player controller. Now you're going to need the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. And I just noticed that we might have something going wrong. I'm not sure. Let's keep going. If it doesn't work, I'll explain later. And let's get the control pawn. Let's cast to the master human. Let's convert to pure cast, and let's call client use slot. There you go. Let me just put this like that. So if I press 1, I'm going to want to use the slot. And the slot that I want to use, let's get from the cast, get slot 1. Get a little bit of space. There you go. Let's just copy and paste this. See if I press 2, I want to get the slot 2. Let's delete the first one. Connect that up. If I do the slot 3, let's get the slot 3. Delete the first one. Connect it and do the same thing for the fourth. Get slot 4, connect it up, and delete this one. So let me just add a comment over here, and I'm going to say use slots. And well, now we're going to want to double click this, so we get over here. Now we want to do the code. So what do we want to do? First of all, I'm going to break the details, so we get all the information that we need. And then what do I need to do? Well, I think first of all I'm going to create a new component over here, bringing a static mesh, and I'm going to call this used weapon mesh. Make sure you connect it to the mesh, and make sure the parent socket, actually you're not going to need to do that. We're going to do that through code. So first of all, use weapon mesh. Let's get that and set the static mesh. That's going to be the first thing. And the new mesh is going to be the item mesh over here. There you go. And then you want to attach to component. There's two with the same name, so I'm not sure. No, this is the actor one, and I want to attach to component. So try both of these. You want the one that says target is in component. That's the one we want, because we want the target of what we want to connect is a weapon mesh, and we want to connect it to the parent, which is the mesh, and the socket name. And I just remembered another thing that we need to add into the item details. Actually, we do not need to do that, because we can just get the type. No, we do need to. Sorry. Yeah, we need. So let's go over here into the item details again. So sorry about bothering you so much. Actually, let's not do that on the item details, let's do it on the weapon details, because we only want to equip weapons. And let's call this the socket name. Let's make this a name. And let's go into the master item, compile and save. And now we go into the code, class defaults, details, weapon details, and now we have the socket name over here to put. So what socket name do we want to use? Well, to set that, we're going to need to go into the animations. Actually, not the animations. Let me just search filters, skeletal mesh, and get the SK mannequin. Let's go into the skeleton over here, and we need to add a socket to the right end. So let's find and right over here, and we're going to add a socket, which is going to be this one, pistol socket. So the pistols will be added over here. Let's add a preview animation, and this can be the standing pistol. Let's set the playback time to 0.1, so we can actually put the weapon as we want. And now let's go into pistol socket. Let's add a preview asset and search for the Colt, like that. And now we need to set this up. Now, if you have pistols with the same size, you can use the same socket to every item. But if you have weapons, even if they are pistols, but they don't look good, all with the same socket, you can always create another socket, and over here in the details you add the socket that you want to add. So instead of always using the same socket, you can have a different socket for each item if you want to, but for now I'm going to use the same one for all the pistols and same stuff like that. And once I find one item that doesn't look good, I'll create its own socket for it. So we need to set this up. Let me just go over here, so like that. I got a feeling that the mesh is not big enough. Can't I? I'm going to set this. Is there a real time? Because I want to pause this. Okay, there you go. So it's paused. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the speed to 1 so I can move well. And I'm probably going to change the size of the weapon, because this doesn't look too good, but I'm going to leave it like this for now. So that's going to be fine. There you go. So that's going to be fine. Let's save that. And let me just Control C the socket name, because I'm going to need that. Now let's go back into our master human. And over here, actually not to master human, let's go to the socket name of the Colt 1911 and paste that in. So we're going to use the pistol socket as the socket name. Now you can go back to the master human, and where it says socket name, you connect it into let me refresh the node. Oh yeah, you need to break the weapon details, sorry. So break the weapon details and get the socket name over here. That's what we want to do. You can collapse these as well if you want to, after you use everything you need. And I believe we want to wield simulator. Make sure on the used weapon mesh, set the collision to no collision. And you do not want to generate overlap events on it. And can never affect navigation. Make sure everything about the collision is disabled on this component. So after we do that, and before we actually do this, let's get the equipped weapon and set it to the slot that we just used. There you go. So now we got a reference to that, and I believe that's going to be enough for the equipping of items. So let's play. Let's try this with a client. I'm gonna go over here. Let's get this pistol. Let's get it to the 3rd slot. You can see that it works. And if I press 3, nothing happens. Okay, well, wait. What am I forgetting then? Let me just see if it's a replication problem. Let's try it with the server. Let me go into the 1st slot. Press 1. Okay, it is working, but the weapon is spawning above the character. So that's a problem over here, because we need to snap the target over here in the attach to component. And we do not want to wield simulator bodies. Let's try right now. Let's pick this up. Pick it up. There you go. 2nd slot, for example. Press D, and now you got the pistol. Sorry, let's see if it did replicate into the clients. Let's see this guy over here. Okay, so it did not replicate. Interesting. Why is that? So do we need to do something? Well, I believe I gotta do something over here. Let me try something. I'm going to click on equip weapon, go into the replication and do a rep notify. This is going to create a function that is going to be called every time this variable gets replicated. And every time that happens, I am going to just copy and paste everything that is over here except this. There you go, Control C. And let's get the equipped weapon and connect these up, and that should be fine. And I know what the problem is. Okay, never mind, let's not do this. We can leave the code and not touch it, that's gonna be fine. But I think I know why. That's because I forgot. You cannot forget this. You can see that even with my experience, I forget these things sometimes. You cannot get direct references from things from the components directly into over here. It won't work. It will break and only work for the server. You need to drag from over here, hold control and drag into the server use slot over here. Let's just add into one and delete the other one. And this target static mesh is going to be called so used weapon mesh component. That's going to be one of those. We got to delete this one, and now the parent is going to be the mesh. You got to delete that and drag another one and call this the mesh component. Let's go back, connect these ones first into the client, compile and save, going to the player controller, and now you need to assign all of these ones. So let's get the used weapon mesh, connect that up, and let's get the mesh, go down here and get the mesh, connect that up. Now I'm just going to duplicate these like that, and connect it into the casts. Make sure you connect these things into the right places, and do the same thing for the fourth. Get a little bit of space. There you go. So now, if I'm not forgetting anything stupid like this, it should work. Let's go into the client. Boom. Put this into the fourth. Press 4. And it's still not working. Okay. Yeah, I'm with a feeling that I'm forgetting something, and I don't like that. So the pistol, it is equipping. Now let's see if it did replicate. No, it didn't. So it's not replicating anyway. Why is that? Okay guys, let's just go with my first solution. Connect these up, let's see what happens. On rep, because I think we're going to need to do this either way if we do auth join into the server. So this way, because when someone not joins into the server when the game is already running, all the variables that are set to replicate will replicate, so that function will fire, and it will equip the weapon on the correct players. Because if you only click on one and then equip, but then someone joins later on, like that client is not going to know that someone equipped the weapon, so it won't show any weapon equipped. So you need to auth join, you need to do that. So let's try this. Press 3, and I'm with the server. Let's see if replicate. So now it replicates into the clients. So now let's bring a client to pick up a weapon. Let's pick it up. First slot, press 1 and it works. And let's go into the client. It's working. Let's go to the other client. Now the server, it's working, and the other client is also working. So now you can see everything is working correctly. So another thing that we're going to need to do that I just forgot is, let's go into the mesh again. Yeah, we're gonna go from the mesh over here. I'm gonna do this on the on-ramp as well. You know, actually, if you notice, this doesn't work anyway. So I believe if you uncheck this and just leave the set with notify and do your code inside the on-ramp, everything should work fine. So let's try that. So just unpin and just run this variable over here. Leave the rest, don't work with it, and work from the on-ramp. So let's get the mesh. And if you're asking why this if you drag from over here, and I always say that it doesn't work on replication, but because you are inside the on rep, this is only going to fire, like it's going to get the information to where the function fires. So it's going to get the information from the actual character that fired this. So this is like it's firing not from a client, it's only firing on the server, and it's updating everyone that just replicated the variable. That's why it works. I'm not sure if you guys are understanding. This is something like, you can leave it in the comments if you're not understanding, and I'll try to explain better. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm getting the anim instance, because we need to set the blend spaces in our animation blueprint, and I'm going to cast to human anim BP. And this human anim BP, we're going to need to open that up, so I'm going to go into the mesh human anim BP and double click that, and you can see that we have the crouch BS and standing BS. So let's set the crouch BS, and let's set the standing BS, and we're going to connect that with from over here. So standing anim BS over here, and the crouched over here. And to see if this actually works, I am going to go into the human anim BP, and I'm going to set the defaults over here. I'm going to set this to none, so I'm going to clear this variable. So you're going to start in T-pose. There you go. You can see that we're going to start in T-pose, but I want to see that the animation thing is working. So I'm going to pick the weapon. I'm going to drag it into slot 1, press 1, and you can see that now I'm running the correct animation. And let's see if it did replicate to the other guys. It did. Nice. Let's try this with the client. Let's drag this up into the number 3, and you can see that it equipped the correct animation, and it replicated into the client, and it replicated into the server. So guys, everything is working, and yeah, you can also crouch, and the weapon will follow then and everything like that. So everything is working fine. I'm gonna leave this video in, it's already half an hour, and in the next video, well, I'm gonna go into the part where now we actually can use the weapons. So in this video we set up on how to equip it. In the next video I'm going to show how to fire it, and I'm going to delete this code that we're not using because we don't need it, and I'm also going to disconnect these pins over here because we do not need them. Let's refresh the nodes. Let's compile and save, and let's comment this use slot, and I'm just going to in parentheses set var, so I know that I'm setting this with notify. So I'm going to compile and save, and we're done. Okay, so guys, if you have any doubts about this stuff from replication that I explained, you can ask in the comments. If you guys want the project files, you can check it out on Patreon, or if you guys want to help me, I appreciate that. And yeah, in the next one we're going to set up the shooting of the weapon. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.